Michelle will be speaking to us from South Africa. Michelle, if you could just wave up to her. Thank you. We have TALAT SHEERAZI GOLDIE. She is the Group Human Resource Director with Bukhatir Group. TALAT joins us from the UAE this afternoon.
Hi.
We have Dr. OMAR. He is the head of academy with Arab National Bank. He joins us from Saudi Arabia.
Hi.
We have Othman Al-Hadi. He is the Chief HR Officer in LAVENDER Group. Othman will be speaking to us from Saudi Arabia.
Hello, everyone.
Joining us is also ASHUTOSH LABROO. He is the Group Chief HR Officer with BMA International, speaking from the UAE. And finally, but not the least, we have Jonathan Lavender, OE Consultant, Organizational Transformation Specialist with Sapience Consultancy. So welcome.
Hi, everyone.
So welcome all. Quite a distinguished panel speaking to us from the Middle East and Africa. And thank you to our attendees who are sitting, viewing this from around the world. We have over 230 delegates registered for this webinar from 19 different countries, including Fiji, Benin, and Mozambique. Majority of them from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, India, and Ghana. I mean, those are the stats. We have 4 main areas of discussion today, starting with actions that are taken by HR to ensure employee well-being and business continuity. Then going on to discussing how will the role of HR change post-COVID-19. Then dwelling on handling recruitment and layoff during COVID-19. And finally, my favorite topic, data and metrics that business leaders want to see for business recovery decisions. So to all the attendees from around the world, thank you for joining us. The Q&A function, that's there right below to send in your questions and comments. We will take them up at the end of the sessions. We have received some questions yesterday from the audience. We will be addressing that too. So let's start it here. I know all our speakers are well capable of speaking for more than an hour. But in the interest of time, I would request that you reserve your talk to not more than 3 minutes on each topic. Let's get started on the first topic. The Bukhatir Group is one of the largest and most diversified business houses in the UAE. You're into construction, education, IT, real estate, shopping, and whatnot. And the group has an employee base of over 5,000. Talat, could you share what actions you have taken to ensure employee well-being and business continuity during this challenging time?
So hello everyone, good afternoon, morning, evening, depending on which part of the world you're in. So I think although our time differences exist, what isn't different is the fact that we're all impacted by this. So I think it's safe to say that this isn't just a one country or a one continent issue. This is happening all over the world, right? So I think there's some comfort in that we're all in this together. I think the downside is that all the people who thought, okay, if this is not working out, I can move somewhere else. The sad part is this is happening everywhere. So travel restrictions, all of those things, it's a tough time. But as one of my esteemed panelists said in an earlier conversation, this isn't unusual. Disasters happen, crises happen, and as an organization, you need to be as prepared as you can to manage something like this. So we're talking about 2 aspects to this. There's the employee safety element, and there's the business continuity, or how do we ensure business continues. So let's talk about first employee safety very quickly. What are some of the things that we've done that pretty much most organizations would have is obviously mandatory reporting of anyone who's been exposed, any employees that have been exposed. The working from home, initially was as much as possible. We need to get people to work from home. Only key positions to come in. If they are coming in, they should be sitting in separate offices. We've had, obviously, clearly, we had travel restrictions put in very, very early. Anyone who was outside or who was coming back in, the usual 14-day quarantine before you get back to work, make sure you're okay. Lots of communication around the regular coronavirus, how it spreads, what you need to be aware of. I think for us, because 70% of our workforce are blue-collar workers, it was very important to get the message out to them, which is really the hotspots would be the labor camps. Hotspots, as we've seen globally, have been crowded places. So very important to get it out to them in their language. So through videos, through written communication, through posters, we did a lot of that. in terms of the business continuity. Really, very quickly, it was about meeting with each of the GMs, understanding who are the key people, how do they need to be connected, what kind of IT connections, Wi-Fi connections do they have at home, does everyone have a laptop, are they going to be able to, who has the ability to work from home and who doesn't, and how do we treat those employees in their different, in the different groups. So yeah, that's my brief 3 minutes. I'll hand over to the next person.
Thank you, Michelle. Ashutosh, BMA, sorry, I'll address this to Michelle. Michelle, Unilever is known to be the #1 employer in the whole of Africa, and you have spent over 20 years with them. What actions have you been taking?
Yes, I'm not going to repeat everything that Talat said. I think many companies have put their people first, and particularly their physical safety. And when we've looked at the well-being and safety of our people, we've looked at it in 3 parts. One is the physical safety and all the precautions taken to protect our employees health-wise, but we also talk about the mental safety, the mental well-being of our employees during this time, because it's really very taxing to be in an environment that used to be your home, which is now also the school ground and is also the workplace, and it's all merging and converging at once, and that can be very, very stressful. So we've done things like a work from home survey for working parents to see what life is like for them in that home environment, and what kind of accommodation we could make for them during this time. And it was simple things like adjusting the timings of meetings, #1, so starting a little later so that they could get kids started on online schooling, or perhaps blocking out. And what we do now across Africa is it's actually a diary invite that says it's time for lunch, so that people are blocked out and no meetings come in and interfere, and that just gives them the psychological space to take a break. That has made a huge difference, and it's come from our CEO. That invite has come from the CEO. And really just keeping people informed all the way about tips, hints and tips that they can use during this time to take care of their mental well-being. I think we have an extensive employee assistance program, and what we've seen is a rise in the usage of the employee assistance program, and even things like relationship issues starting to escalate, the kind of support needed, the support needed on financial assistance, which is giving us some insights on the employees. And then finally, the third level of safety I would call psychological safety. This is where the leader steps in and helps the individual realize, and perhaps not all the things that we used to call productivity or excellence or success is valid now, and we need to accommodate and you know, just reprioritize what's really going to matter. And that some things may drop, and the individual feels safe to say that there are some things I'm just not going to get to because I'm having to trade off many other parts. So I think the last thing related to what Talat said is keeping people informed. And so we've started a People First newsletter, keeping people engaged, town halls, and just online methods where people can just download of how they're feeling and give them that kind of support. And it is about HR adapting to being the resilience partners right now. So I'm going to leave it there. There's just a couple of things that we're doing, and learning along the way is the most important thing.
Thank you, Michelle. Ashutosh, BMA International is into fashion retail, and a presence in several GCC countries with employee base of over 7,000. How has your journey been to ensure employee well-being and business continuity?
See, a lot of stuff that Michelle just now mentioned, I totally agree with it. But I'm going to mention few specific interventions that we took, you know, when this whole COVID-19 episode hit us. And it hit us all of a sudden. And, you know, retail is a very strong cash flow driven organization outfit. And, you know, it depends largely on a lot of factors which are related to external circumstances. So for us to keep people's engagement levels high was very important, because we knew for sure, because of the yo-yo effect of this scenario, you know, people will get demotivated, they'll get disengaged. So we focused on 3 or 4 pillars. One was we focused very strongly on video messaging. So we made sure that all the chief executives of BMA, they actually shoot their motivational 1-minute video, and we started circulating it on our e-learning platform. We loaded a lot of motivational videos from various authors, writers, leaders, trainers across the globe on our e-learn platform, and we called it iLearn, and we made it free for everyone to access, so they didn't even have to log in. We started sending them free links, so they could just click on the link and they go directly to video. One thing which I am very proud of, we started a program called BMA Voice, which was like a helpline, which allowed every employee across BMA to call us 24/7, and someone will be there to take the call. Someone will be there to address the grievances, and we started recording those grievances, concerns, doubts, fears, and we started responding within 48 hours. I think these were 3-4 interventions that I personally feel helped us a lot, because as I said that, suddenly when stores are closed, people start assuming a lot of things. To disallay, and to address those fears and notions, I think these were few things that we immediately took stands on, and it really helped actually in a big way.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Dr. Omar, how do you see this from an L&D perspective? Dr. Omar, are you with us?
Maybe he can't hear you.
I think the screen got froze. I had the same issue.
Is it?
Yes, I
Yeah, I
agree.
had the same issue.
Yes.
Talking about, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Please continue.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, his audio is there, I think.
Hello?
Yeah, Dr. Omar, yes, continue.
Can
Please
you hear
continue,
me?
Dr. Omar. Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, Dr. Omar, please continue.
Okay. L&D is a part of the HR. So when this COVID, So when this COVID is a part of the a very crucial role in that crisis, I would say. We were thinking in two aspects. Human resources, of course, is taking care of the human.
We're losing you. We're losing him.
No.
Take care of the business continuity. So this combination side,
I'm sorry, we can't hear.
Can you hear me? Yes?
No. I think your audio is not clear. There's a lag. We'll probably come back to you, or maybe I'll address this question in the next section. No, we'll need to keep track of time. Ritesh, if you're there.
Yes.
Yeah, if you can.
I'm there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay,
Can you hear
Dr.
me?
Omar, we can. If you
Yes.
can quickly finish. Yeah, we have a minute for you,
Yeah.
sir.
So we had to start our learning through the Zoom technology, and we gave priority for the soft skills and management skills courses, so that people can adapt to a new situation of this COVID-19. We need to train people how to behave during this crisis. So we are now running a lot of soft skills and management courses so that they can cope with this crisis, to be honest. So because,
Okay.
it's an exceptional situation that requires an exceptional performance. And for that, you have to train your people how to cope with this situation.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Right. Thank you, Dr. Omar.
Okay.
Coming to Othman, the Bin Laden Group is the largest construction company in the world. I mean, and the group owns and operates over 400 companies with more than 200,000 employees. It must be certainly challenging for you to manage this crisis, geographies. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, my colleagues, they covered a lot of this. I just wanted to add two points and emphasize on that psychological recovery for employees. Our employees, most of them, they have been taken by SARS, all of us actually. And recovery from the shock is giving us a golden opportunity to build loyalty and bonding with our employees. Employees had this sense of instability, uncertainty, insecurity, and attending this matter on personal level was very crucial. I'm talking about key roles, not here addressing the blue collar, but the critical roles that really matters, who can also do and cascade down with their employees. So that psychological support is during these times what really matters, and building loyalty and bonding with employees. The other point that I want to touch base on very quickly is we witnessed through this crisis that employees were very clear and very fast on what really matters, like strategy, roles. They had higher personal ownership. more external orientation. And to make these new trends stick, we are making the efforts to understand what are those positive behaviors, how we can take it further, how we can keep them more focused on their goals, cooperative, less corporate bureaucracy, how we can turn this into a new way of working as opposed to the old world. So as much as this crisis is bringing issues, but also we've seen those fabulous levels of engagement and creativity and problem solving that we want to tap into, keep with the new normal life we go back to. I'm very sure if those are not well articulated from now, employees realize them, people will forgive them within 1 or 2 months. So that's something that we are looking into. Also, the other point is optimized work structure. We started to realize, taking down what are those tasks that are not necessary, what these things that are no value added in work, how this can optimize work, how this can maximize productivity in the future. And we realized some of those tasks that even more essential than we thought. We saw new rising champions of our employees. We need to hold on to those people and maybe even review the talent categorization processes. So all these things are happening or to happen in the coming few weeks. Of course, we have not returned to our offices. We're still under the lockdown, but this is what we do right now and what we are planning to do once we resume work.
Right. Thank you, Othman. Okay, we have our first poll question for the audience. Ritesh, can we have it up, please? There you go. We'll give 20 seconds to everyone to respond and we'll publish the results. So what is your main challenge as an HR professional in dealing with COVID-19? Ritesh, do we have the results? There you go. Okay. So we have difficulty coordinating response across teams, businesses, units, and geographies seems to be the maximum. Great. Maybe this is something we could address during the Q&A. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ritesh. We'll go on to the second topic now. HR is at the front lines of employees' response to COVID-19 crisis. And it is forcing almost every business to immediately adapt and improve remote work policies and procedures. As HR professionals will be struggling to keep employees safe and informed, it helps to think what changes will be more permanent and how you will guide employees and organizational leadership through those changes. Let's start with Othman. How do you think the role of HR will change post-COVID-19?
First of all, there is a structural change that we are expecting. There will be a permanent role department with regard to employees' health and well-being. I know it exists in my previous companies that I used to work for, but what really matters is what is this role? What is the reach? What is the significance of this role in the whole HR agenda? I think it will move very quickly to be one among the most top priorities for HR, i.e. the health and well-being. We're not here only about health and well-being. We're talking also about other aspects, and it may also extend to the family, as the health and well-being of the employee's family directly impact the employee engagement, etc. That's number one. So there is a structural matter that we see. On the work itself, on the role of the existing HR, there are important, significant concepts that HR use and we are dependent on. And those, frankly, built on the social interaction, building trust through human connection, develop people through on-the-job training and personalized coaching. All those concepts should be revised and relooked. It's very, very hard because we raised this way, we have been trained this way. The direct face-to-face, one-on-one interaction is the way to develop and cultivate talents. Now we need to revise that, also reflect on our hiring criteria, our technology platforms, our learning, our policies also should be revised in the light of what has happened and reflect. We always say the change starts with a compelling case, a compelling need. Now we have the strongest one, i.e. we must now change. We have been pushing for this digitalization and the technology solutions already for 1 decade. Now we have a very strong case that the resistance almost will vanish in terms of driving the digitalization and the automation and artificial intelligence in our work. This is no longer yes, we should we or should we not, rather how to do it, how to allocate the budget with both business leaders and other HR and the rest of the organization. The third point is quite specific to Saudi, is talent mobility. Talent mobility will be an issue, is today an issue, and will continue to be an issue to you know, travel restrictions, etc. So, sorry?
Yeah, the time is up. If you can very quickly wrap up the third point.
Yeah, very quickly, 30 seconds. So the travel restriction, more emphasis. Now you have to go for local talents, to cultivate more local talents and count on those people around us, as opposed to those planes that are coming shipped with advisors and consultants come from Dubai or Bahrain. Or so local talents will take the lead. It is in their advantage. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's hear from ASHUTOSH. If there are any points that you would like to
Sure.
on that, you know, Othman hasn't covered.
So I think a large part of my understanding of how the post-COVID-19 situation will be, I'm not sure, Ranjit, if you're able to see me, because I can see that I'm not maybe visible on the video, but I'm gonna speak continuously.
Yeah, you're audible. Please continue.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, I think HR has to have a very stronger role to be played in culture building. I think over the years, HR has started becoming more administrative and digital managers rather than, you know, I think there is an over obsession with the digital and tech. Even though I am a software engineer by my background, I personally believe there is an over obsession with digitalization and the tech part, because human intelligence is not artificial intelligence. And if digitalization is the solution in such situations, then everybody will, you know, replace human beings with machines, and that's not going to happen. So in reality, I personally believe we need to start focusing a lot on regaining trust. I think trust has been very badly hit in all organizations. Almost everywhere that I see, I think there's a huge exodus of trust. I think HR will have to rebuild trust within the organization and remove fear, address concerns, address issues, address a lot of queries, concerns, a lot of dreams that have been heard. That has to be addressed. I think that's point number one post-COVID. Second thing, I think there has been an over obsession with workforce aging part. I think a lot of us are talking continuously about millennials and Gen Z and Gen Y. I think at least COVID-19 for me personally has given me a learning that there has to be a balance in the two. And I would like to continue to retain older generation employees and still focus on millennials and Gen Z and Gen Y. For me, Gen Z, Gen Y and millennials, I would rather focus on training them on emotional intelligence and leadership. For the older generation employees, I would rather focus on training them on digital and tech platforms and making them adapt to learn and embrace the new wave that is coming in. I think I would like to see that balance emerging from HR side. Third, I think there's a lot of fact versus fiction struggle going on right now. The whole world is so eager to return to office, but there is a whole fixation of that the work from home will be the new normal. I actually completely disagree with that. And I love the article that Satya Nadella came out with, that if work from home continues for long, it will be a disaster. And I absolutely agree with him. He couldn't have been more right. I think there is an over-obsession and too much of hype built around the work from home concept. I don't think it will be the new normal. I think it will be a percentage of the new organization that we all will become, but it can never replace the human interaction, the human bonding, the emotional interaction, the social atmosphere that all organizations in some percentage and component will require to continue to have. You know, I think that will continue to be a big role of HR, which is balancing facts versus fiction. Because I'm sure the fears will also force a lot of employees to claim that I would prefer to work from home and please allow me to work from home. So I think that balancing act will be a very important act as well. Second last, I think I would like to focus a lot on succession planning. One realization for me was that I have a lot of roles, if they tomorrow are redundated, or people rather, if those skills are not available in the organization, because those people either choose to leave, or we today are not able to accommodate them, then in future, those skills, whenever required, there is no one else to replace them. So succession planning has suddenly become, according to me, a big priority for us. And I think we need to focus a lot more on it, focus on building those critical skills, establishing those training needs, and then getting it addressed. Last but not the least, I think we need to focus a lot.
Time's up.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Jonathan, before I move to you, just a quick reminder for all the audience out there, please put in your questions. We'll take them at the end of the sessions. We need more questions. This whole webinar is meant and directed towards you so that this will help. We have a lot of experts here sharing their thoughts. So if you ask questions, it's all the more beneficial to all of us and you. Another point is, I would request all the speakers, please stick within your time. I think we are already overshooting. Be precise to the point. If the points are already covered by other speakers, I would ask you to refrain from it. Jonathan, please, over to you.
Yeah, well, really, hi everybody. Really, just to confirm what was just being said there is, I really don't think that we're all going to be working from home and all training is go online, as you know, as some of the scaremongers will say. And if the last 20 years or so has taught us anything, the 1997 Asian stock market crash, the 2001 9/11 bombings, the dot-com bubble, the financial crisis of 10 years ago, they don't change everything. Yes, there are some short-term reactions for sure, but it's things are going to get back to normal. And as I said, just to reiterate what some of the other people have said, this is an opportunity for HR people, because one of the realities is when business is going well, when sales are up, when profits are being made, the boss doesn't call you into the office and say, let's hire some more HR people, right? The only time he's really going to look at HR is when there's when things are not good, and this is the time when your CFO and your CEO really need you. And one thing I can say post COVID-19 is that your CFO and your CEO are going to be having a meeting right now. They're sitting in an office right now, and they're saying, okay, how many jobs can we cut? How can we cut money? What can we do to get rid of people? What can we do? Now, as an HR leader, you can wait for that meeting to be happening and given your instructions, or you can be the first one in the office. We as HR people need to take that lead about how we can make the changes to the organization. There are some short-term reactions, which basically means HR doing its job properly. And I'm talking about an emphasis on operational efficiency. I'm talking about a focus on KPIs, on the skills, on the capabilities of our people. Focused training, not just throwing money at whatever training we feel like doing, but looking at ROI, looking at what training has the greatest impact for our people. It's about performance management. It's about making sure we give bonuses to the right people that are actually producing the results, not just throwing out money to anybody. Is exactly right what he just said there about succession planning, making sure that we're training not just one person for the role, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potential successors for the role, right? In other words, it means HR doing what it's supposed to do. We are in a position to march into the CEO and the CFO's office and say, let's make this organization more operationally efficient. Now is not the time to be talking about engagement or satisfaction. Yes, now's the time to be talking about efficiency, effectiveness, productivity. And we have, and it comes up as a later question, we are the drivers of those metrics which will help the organization get through this, right? It's a short-term reaction. We need to take the lead as HR about how we move the organization forward. If we do nothing, please expect a memo in your email which is going to say, thanks very much, but we're making you redundant. That's a choice. We either take the lead or we take the memo.
Thank you, Jonathan. Dr. Omar, how do you see this role change for L&E?
Yes, in my opinion, COVID-19 has created a new situation. COVID-19 is not only a crisis now, it's becoming a lifestyle and a business formula. And this requires a new culture. So the role of L&D from now on should be to inculcate a new culture. What does it mean? That in order to cope with this situation that's going to continue after even this crisis, because we have learned so many lessons, and I said that those who survive coronavirus, these people already learned the lesson. So the role of L&D is going to be to fix the training gap again between what is required and what is the situation with the employees now, who are going to stay with us and we go to train them. We are going to invest on those who will stay for sure. But now here we are talking about the soft skills and the technical skills. Most of the employees, they have the technical skills, but the new situation required the new skills, in my opinion. So we have to train people on these new requirements. When it comes to the soft skills, this crisis has created a new situation for our employees. There's a lot of stress, a lot of job insecurity. So this requires a lot of training, in my opinion. So the role of L&D is going to be very crucial in the future. We have to be focused. We don't have money, we don't have time to do nice to have a training. We should be result oriented from now on. Banking, especially banking, we have budget for training, but we have to be really focused and to know how to invest our money. We are not going to use Kirkpatrick model of four levels of evaluation. We have to use Phillips, which is ROI. So we have to go to the 5 level of evaluation of the training. We have to all the time to validate, evaluate the training, do the coaching, and see how the training is fixing really the training gap. This is my opinion about L&D in short.
Thank you, Omar. I couldn't agree more.
I try to be
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our second poll question for the audience. Ritesh, can we have it up, please? Thank you. It's a pretty long one, so I'll give a good at least a minute to everyone to go through. So what are the top 3 areas that COVID-19 crisis will transform the role of HR? It's a multiple choice. I'll give at least a minute and a half for everyone to finish. I can also request the speakers, if you want to directly answer the questions that's coming up from our audience, there is an option that you can answer by text. I can see our Othman Hadi quite active there. He's been answering their questions. Ritesh, do we have the results, or are we still waiting for some more?
Last 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay, do we have the results? Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's move on to third topic. We have two more topics to cover and not more than 15 minutes that we have left with, so we'll do this quickly. So topic 3. On recent report that I was actually reading, 49% of the companies have considered layoffs, and 37% of the companies have already instituted, hiring freeze. And then there are companies like the e-grocers, the healthcare and delivery services and warehouses that are hiring people, even if it's on short-term basis. Talat, how has the situation impacted your hiring and layoffs?
Okay, so the Bukhatir industries is, like you said, very, very diverse. So we have oil and gas, we have retail, we have manufacturing, we have healthcare, education, construction, real estate. So I think very important to understand that there were different strokes for different folks. I think a cookie cutter kind of approach wouldn't have worked, because clearly some of our industries were and are still doing well and are still on par and on budget. Whereas there are others that have been hurt pretty badly and some that are doing better. So for example, our healthcare, is actually on target, is doing well. Construction is on target, is doing well. That never closed down. We have issues obviously on the education side, because we know the schools are offline. There are a lot of stuff. What are we doing with our buildings, with all the assets, with our mortgages on that? So there's, we've got retail as well. So we have a mall. So, that's a whole different ball game. Everything's closed down, even though it's open partially now. There are issues with customers, with tenants, being able to pay rent. So there's obviously different challenges for different businesses. So we never took a cookie cutter kind of approach. I think from an HR point of view, we did initiate the discussion with each GM, and we've basically come up with plans which we have implemented around 3 basic areas. Who can we actually, at this point, make redundant? This is the time, I think, as sad as it is, but there are a lot of people in our business that we carried for a long time. So maybe this is the time you need to look at those people specifically and see, okay, we need to save the ship. So to save the ship, what is it that we need to do with regard to redundancy? So number 1 was redundancies and how we do them, and obviously do them in the most elegant manner by trying and give them as much support as we can. Then what we've introduced maybe and we're thinking about now is maybe this is a good time to introduce part-time work. So in the UAE, this has never really existed. Okay, it's either a full-time and you're there 9 to 5, or it's nothing. So now this is the time to really think about temp work, contract work. Maybe we need people only for 3 days in a week. We don't need them. Or maybe people can do something else for those 2 days. It's easier now from the visa issue as well for employees in the UAE to be able to work for other employers concurrently along with yourself. So that's one option as well, because that helps cut your costs. Instead of paying them for a full month, you pay them for a lot less, so lesser days. And then I think what we also did introduce was a slab-wise salary reduction pretty much across all our BUs, because I think the realization now is stronger than ever that cash is king, liquidity is really important, and even though we may feel that at this point, this particular business is not being impacted, there is a domino effect, there is a knock-on effect, and further down the line, there will be cash crunch, there will be issues. So why don't we, at this point, save what we have and make those clear reductions? I think the good part was that no one was spared. It was right from the group CEO right down to, except for the really low paid workers. What we did do was that for our laborers and for our workforce, anybody earning below a certain amount, we gave them no cuts, but staff pretty much across the board, we've all taken a hit there temporarily until things are, look up again. So those are kind of the 3 kind of things, 3 areas that we've looked at business-wise to try and see where we are on the budget, how much of the budget is being impacted, how does that impact the workforce, how does that impact the payroll, what do we need to do now to address that, so we're not doing this when it's too late.
Right. Thank you, Talat. So good points raised there. Michelle, your views, please.
I think, this is a reality that we're all going to face. And as Jonathan says, the sooner we get into it, that this is going to be something that goes away on its own, the sooner we start planning appropriately for it. One of the very first calls that I had to make very early on with our first COVID case is that I could see the trends in the rest of the world, and I made a tough call right there and then that we would slow down recruitment, so that all recruitment requests would come through to me so that I could have a look at it. And the reason I did that is because I did not want to do salary cuts. I did not want that to be my first reaction. So I would rather have a salary cut on my hand. And there's a sequence again, I might need to face that later down the line. But in preventing filling vacancies, we actually were able to buy ourselves some time. What we've been able to do, we've seen our food solutions business that really caters to restaurants and outside businesses really drop in turnover. But we've seen our foods business, where we cater for home cooking, increase in business. And so what has that meant for HR is that we've redeployed our food solutions sales team into our foods business where there were vacancies. And so I think a core part of what you need to think about right now is how you can be resourceful, how you can take your teams, reskill them or redeploy them and rebuild their capabilities so that they are employable into the ecosystem, not always with your own organization because you might face some realities, but at least you're making them more employable for the ecosystem as you go along. The other thing that we've enrolled the entire company to do, because normally you'll feel that cash is the responsibility of the finance division or the CEO. We've said to everyone, what are you going to do to help us protect cash in this business? So every bit of spend, look at your budgets, tell us what you can cut, because the last place we want to go is to cut jobs. So if you can do more in cutting your budgets and looking at only the priority work, that's what we can do. And the third thing that we did is how do we repurpose our business? So one of the things that in Africa, we were never producing hand sanitizers, we were importing it. So we quickly, within a couple of weeks, said, how do we get a third party on board to actually start producing hand sanitizers? But that's meant we could redeploy a team to a new business now for us, which is hand sanitizers that is growing. Or a partnership with Uber in terms of how we can, the Uber driver can sell some of our products that relates to health and hygiene every time he picks up someone. So the idea is, how does HR become innovators in protecting the business so that you can protect our employees?
Thank you, Michelle. Some excellent points there. We move on to our last and final topic. Our leaders are going to be asking for regular updates on our employees' health and our business's productivity. This is not going to be a flash in the pan even either. The path back to normal will be long and gradual, which means we need to approach data collection, reporting, analysis with an emphasis on repeatability. To that end, there's a number of questions that HR team are going to need to answer in order to provide a status of and show progression of the business adaptation to these challenges and how our workforce is coping. I would like the panel to touch upon the data and metrics that business leaders are wanting to see for business recovery decisions from HR. Jonathan, let's start with you.
Well, the question itself is interesting to me in so much as that what are the metrics and data that business leaders want to focus on? I don't know what they want, but I can tell you what they will be focusing on right now. And that is, they will be focusing on the fact that they've got a 30% drop in revenue and their costs are exactly the same. That's the only two metrics that they're looking at. Now, what that means for us as HR people is that we need to be more commercial. This is a message I've been hammering out in training courses for many years now. But we need to make sure that we're looking at the ROI of everything we do. We need a closer alignment of individual objectives to profitable actions. We need to be focusing people's activity towards revenue generating activity. We need to be giving away earned bonuses, not given bonuses. Earned by generating revenue or reducing those costs. We need to focus on KPIs and competency frameworks. We need to make sure we've got the right skills doing the right job. We need to be looking at time and motion studies. We need to be looking at process steps and stages, its operational efficiency. We need to look at the number of people involved in decision making and the time to complete. I mean, for example, look at your own recruitment process from that from when somebody leaves the organization and a manager fills out a request for a new member of staff, through sourcing of candidates, selecting and shortlisting them, and then doing the first interviews and the second interviews and panel interviews and psychometric evaluations and You look at all of those steps that's involved in that process. Then look at the time that's involved in that step. And you look at the time and then the salaries of the people that are involved in that process. You can actually calculate the cost of recruiting people. And I ask you this question, is it more expensive to recruit people than the money you're actually going to save by laying them off for the next 3 months? But that's what we need to be able to, we need to be able to look at the money metrics of the organization to see that a series of actions, recruitment, cutting down recruitment, or laying people off. Well, what's the difference? How do you compare one to the other? We need to make financially driven HR decisions, and whether that's recruitment or whether that's training. So that goes back onto the training, and Dr. OMAR mentioned earlier on about the focus on management and leadership training, and I absolutely agree on that, because we've got to get the managers to do their jobs properly. It's the managers are going to run this organization. So we need to be able to deliver training to our people where we can see that that will result in a series of actions that will directly impact revenue or costs. It's those two things that we need to drive. And trust me, as I'm older than most people across the panel, but trust my 30 plus years experience in this. This is an opportunity for us as HR people. We can take the lead. We can show our bosses, right, that we are useful in this organization, and we can be useful by helping revenue and costs. And those are the metrics that really matter to the decision makers in the organization.
Thank you, Jonathan. Michelle? Points.
Yeah, I won't say anything further to what Jonathan has said about the financial metrics. I think the one P&L that I own is the overheads line. I know my accountability as HR, and I sit in a board meeting, and so I don't think a CFO or my CEO is having conversations without me anything related to that line in the P&L. So I'm always at the table. The thing that I want to talk about is the softer metrics that I think impacts the financial metrics as well. So employee engagement is often seen as a softer metrics, but for me, it's actually a really strong indicator of where the organization is at. Because if my employees are not engaged, they don't give me discretionary effort, which means that they are coming in to just give me the middle ground. They're just coming in to do the bare minimum. But if I know that our employees are engaged and they're clear on our strategy, I know I get the discretionary effort because I know they want the growth for the organization as much as we as the board do. And so they find creative, innovative ways to actually get there, often in ways that we can't, because we're not digital, we're not as creative as some of our millennials are. So I focus on employee engagement a lot because that's when people come up with great solutions. The other thing that I do look at, and there's great analytics on this, digital analytics with our IT division on the time spent in meetings, online, emails, how people are using their time, and if that's the most effective use of time versus collaborative, innovative thinking time. And we look at those metrics to say, how do we want to shift the business in terms of collaborating versus just answering emails all day? So those are some of the metrics that we also look at. And the third thing, as Jonathan says, whilst I agree fully, we can never just have an online version of training, but we are seeing a rise in online training. And what that tells me is that there's a lot of self-directed learning, people realizing that actually they need to invest in their own futures by future fitting themselves. So that's up to sharing 3 measures. There are many measures I can share, but those are 3 that I thought I'd highlight.
Can I just come back there, Ranjit, just very quickly?
Yeah, we don't have time, but just in a minute, if you can conclude, please.
Yeah, it's all. I think what Michelle is saying there. I do think that there's going to be a rise in technical training. There's a lot of knowledge-based training, which I think we can shift online. I think the soft skills, the leadership, the management training, I think that will remain face-to-face, but I do think that there's a lot of technical stuff that we can move towards online platforms.
Right.
That's all.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think we will have to end it there before we'll take up the Q&A. Right before that, we have a third poll question for the audience. Ritesh, can we have it up, please? Thank you. So what are the biggest business concerns in light of COVID-19? It's a multiple choice. I think we can spare about 20 seconds for everyone to answer. Well, all of it, in my opinion.
All of it, true.
In fact, I would have ticked everything.
Yes, can we add one that says all of the above?
Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we have the results? Are you still waiting, Ritesh? There you go. It's pretty even. Future of the organization and economy, the biggest concern. Right. Thank you so much. Okay. So now, before we move on to taking the questions from the audience, I would like to take this opportunity to let you all know that Informal Markets is coming up with a virtual live training on HR preparedness for business continuity and transformation. This will be scheduled from the 22nd to 25th of June. I'll be sharing the link to this event on the chat section along with the other virtual trainings planned in the month of June. Jonathan Lavender would be leading this HR training course. Jonathan, if you could tell us a little bit more.
Sure. I think the aim of this particular training, spread over the 4 days that it is, I think that the schedule is 3 hours per day, spread over 4 days, is to focus on a lot of the questions that I see coming up into the Q&A here, and some of the questions that we've come across from the panel here, is that how do we actually go about addressing it? So if for example, on those particular metrics that we were talking about, what are those metrics that we need to do? How can we do that? Michelle made some really good points there about engagement metrics and so on and so on. But okay, what can we do as an organization to increase the engagement? What do we actually do about it? Yes, because what we do have to do, and I think we all agreed here, is that we're in a rush now. We can't afford to have a few committee meetings and spend the next 6 months planning it. What we've got to do is, on the 1st of July, is get on with it. All right? So we need to roll out, what are we going to do in July and in August to increase engagement? What are we going to do to make sure that every dollar we spend on training is going to something that's going to cut costs or increase revenue? What are the process steps that we need to do? How can we simplify our organization? How can we simplify our performance management system to make it more effective, more efficient, right? What can we, to make sure that we're distributing salaries, everything, all of those different aspects of the HR world that's covered there. Well, how do we focus on each of these to make each of these more effective, right? In the light of the situation and the way that the world is going to look for the next 18 months, because as I mentioned before, HR is in the position right now to take the lead. So how do we do that? That's what this course is about.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have a lot of questions coming up. I'll try and take up questions that the panelists probably not touched upon. There are some questions that came in actually yesterday. Maybe I'll start with that. Okay. Talat, this is for you. What all systems and processes HR is working on to ensure desired performances are delivered in work from home conditions?
Again, and we touched upon this earlier. So very quickly, I don't think, a lot of companies think HR is their audit function or is going to suddenly track every employee and it's their job to look out for productivity and how many hours the employee is spending doing productive work, but really it's not your job. It's not our job to do this at all. It's a manager's job. Again, goes back down to a very basic thing that should exist in every organization, which is trust. Okay, and if there is trust, if the manager trusts the employees trust the manager, you won't even be having this conversation, how are we tracking you? okay? Because you know that they're working, you know they'll deliver when they need to deliver, and you don't need to track them every minute. So I think it goes down to trust. However, if there are companies that are doing this, you can Google. There are about 5 million different instruments you can use to track productivity, starting from Excel, from what minute to what minute, what did you do? And the employee actually spending 2 hours just doing that or filling in that log rather than doing actual work. So I don't really believe in that whole theory of tracking people.
There have been a lot of time and motion studies conducted in government ministries across many of the countries in the Middle East, and people are not very efficient at the office. So the fact of whether they're efficient working from home or not is an irrelevant question. So I completely agree with that.
Right. Thank you both. There's another like a comment, and they would like to have some views on it. The biggest challenge that HR might face is to build the trust amongst employees and make them feel safe getting back to workplace, coupled with job security questions that employee may hold. Othman, would you like to take this?
Sure. I do think trust can be built now. If it was not there in the good days,
Congratulations, well said.
Just wake up, yeah, you guys need to trust us. This is too late. Those who were not going by the ethics, values, and principles, tough luck. They have to deal with it. Really, I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah. Okay. I agree completely as well. Right. And one thing that I have a belief on trust is that you can't actually do anything to build trust. Trust is an outcome. It's a result. And it's the result of consistency, rapport, and respect. Right? If you are consistent, if you remain consistent to different people, to different times, if you have a rapport with the other person, and if you have their respect through your own knowledge or skills or whatever, and you respect them for their knowledge and skills, as a result of those things, trust is the outcome. So what we need to do as an organization is make sure that our managers, right, know what consistency means. Our managers know how to build rapport. And if you look at respect, rapport, and consistency, you'll see that the key to that in any organization lies with the managers. It comes with good old-fashioned management training.
But still, the truth of the matter, trust built over years and can be lost in 1 minute. You cannot do that.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
Over years, then you have to build it in this month.
I completely agree. I completely agree with you. If you haven't done it now, it's too late. I completely agree with you.
Right. Thank you. Let's go on to the next question. This question has come from Odwa Gonia. Question is, I am interested to understand some of the strategies on retention of critical staff that are highly in demand in the market, especially as an IT specialist. Who would want to take this?
I'd tell him to sign up for that training course we're doing on the 20th of June, because the answers are in that one.
You can walk around very practically. You can look at some kind of an incentive, like a retention incentive if you want. If these people are that important, maybe you should have done this earlier, but right now, if you really need them that badly, I think it's important to build in some kind of a retention incentive. Like if you stay with us for the next 1 year, you'll get small commission, incentive, bonus, whatever you want to call it. That's one way of addressing it very quickly.
Golden handcuffs is always a good short-term solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a question for Dr. Omar. I guess even Michelle can answer that. Do you foresee a e-learning investments?
Well, it's for me?
Yes, for you, Dr. Omar.
Yeah, e-learning is in place, or even before the crisis.
True, but do you see a rise in investment? Is that going to be more?
During the crisis, it's been increasing, and in the future, I think it will be a normal. So, as Jonathan said, more courses will be conducted online and through e-learning, especially the soft skills and the management skills. The technical skills. Some courses you can't really do them online because they need an interaction between the trainer and the trainees. Like, for example, if you talk about team building course, this course needs a lot of exercises and discussions and interactions. So e-learning is there, but it's coming more and more. And I think we are going to invest much in the future in this kind of training, because it saves money, it saves time and everything.
Thank you, Michelle. Would you like to add?
Yeah, well,
I would.
the answer is that right now we haven't had any other option. So you can only learn through e-learning. We can't really put people into a classroom. But what we've seen as a benefit of that is, I believe that it creates more access. So what we've done is created these masterclass sessions. And instead of saying it's for this group, it's for a group of managers, or it's for this function, or it's for this department, whatever, we've just said, this is what we're teaching. We're doing a module on net revenue management. Anyone wants to join, you sign up here. And suddenly you get 400 enrollments of people on net revenue management, which we've never been able to do before, because the cost would be completely exclusive, right? And now 461 people have learned about net revenue management. So that's really exciting. The second thing that we've done is these masterclasses are run predominantly by leaders in the business. So leaders as teachers. So we're developing the coaching muscle, the teaching muscle amongst our leaders. But in doing that, the benefit of that is that these leaders are building relationships with teams beyond their own direct reports. So it's creating engagement in the organization in a different way. And the third thing is using experts like yourselves to come in on our sessions and tell us about your work and what you're doing. So bringing the external in is also much easier. So I see a lot of great benefits from what we're doing. Now, if we went back to the normal and we could have face-to-face programs, we definitely would do that. But we would keep some of these good practices that we've learned along the way.
Ranjit, if I may add very quickly one single point. I think one of the things that we have exploited aggressively on our e-learning platform is we converted big chunks of learning into bite-sized chunks of learning. And, you know, micro learning is very important. So I think we converted everything that we wanted to coach people on in those 8 to 10 minutes video maximum, or maybe 4 to 5 minutes. I think that's very important, because attention spans generally lose out in long run videos, you know, so that's one thing that I just wanted to add.
Yeah, thank you. I think we might just take 2 or 3 more questions, because I think we've already done with an hour. Okay, Ashutosh, I think a question has come for you. What is HR planning to ensure there is minimum or no impact on job security? Also, what will be the new business skills required during these times?
See, I don't have, honestly speaking, a clear answer to it. I would like to believe that it will be a mix of variety of things. But since it's an individual's question, I would like to answer from an individual perspective. I've been a very strong follower of an equation that goes like performance is equal to potential minus interference. And I've coached on it. I've practiced it in my life, at least for the last 15 years. And I believe this interference is internal and external. External is the circumstances that you can't control. Internal is how you deal with it. You know, so if an individual is very conscious of learning continuously, adapting, and is really willing to go out of the box and really think different. Like, for example, you know, people who are very digitally savvy are often not very good with social interactions, but can they be open to learn that? Or people who are socially very active, but they don't really adapt at technology, can they be open to learn technology? Because everything boils down to their biases and their own perceptions and conditioning, you know. So I think one of the things that I generally would like to believe, which will make anyone secure anywhere in the world, is to really, really focus on dealing with their own biases, dealing with their own perceptions, and revisiting them. And I genuinely believe in that. And I personally invest in my own coaching. I coach as well. So I go for coaching sessions to invest in my own learning, and I coach others also. And I think I'm conscious of learning continuously. I think that's very, very important to make sure that you are secure anywhere. I don't think there is any recipe or any formula to protect yourself unless you're open to this. I think that's how I look at it.
Right. Thank you. I think we'll take the question. It's come from Janvi Ravi. With many organizations on the verge of starting a new financial year, where is it gone? Yeah, so with many organizations on the verge of starting a new financial year, I would like to know the panelists' thought on what should be the core focus areas of HR professionals. Who would like to take this?
Yeah, I can take it.
Okay.
Yeah, so one of the most important things that we have to look into is the resulting people-related costs from the new era.
Okay.
How is it going to play out? Are our offices going to be, for example, changed? Is there a new provisions fund? Are we taking more cost now than the past? So from HR standpoint, anything related to the overall cost structure of the organization, I think HR should focus on that. Other business leaders are focusing on logistics, revenues, etc. But the people-related cost, whole thing, should be attended by the HR professional.
Absolutely.
I fully agree with that. And I would add one more to that, is to say, I think we're going to be these resilience partners. And we shouldn't underestimate that role. We need to build a resilience muscle. There's going to be more uncertainty, more anxiety, more stress. You're going to build more skills. So the pressure is going to be on. And so we need people to be resilient, because if we don't build that, you're going to have more mental health issues, more physical well-being issues, and people are going to stay away from work. And if they stay away from work, your productivity is shot, and you're going to have to get temporary workforce. Your costs are going to go up. So the more we build resilience in our employees, employee engagement, I think you are going to have a financial positive impact.
Right. Thank you.
And I would add in there very quickly, you know, if you look at the skills of the HR professional, I suggest anybody watching this, if they were listening to Michelle speaking, you know, for as far as Unilever is concerned, and that's one of the largest employees in the world, she said data analytics, she said AI, she said she's talking about predictive analytics, because the future of HR lies in those areas. So if you are a young HR professional, make sure you understand HR from an AI and an analytics perspective, because that's going to be essential moving forward.
Right. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. It was a very engaging session with some interesting insights shared. I hope you all go back with some key takeaways here. I would like to thank all our panelists for taking out time and to be part of this webinar. Also our lovely audience. I'd also request all of you to please, we have put up a survey link on the chat section. If I could urge all of you to please go and fill that out. It will help us to get some feedback. Thank you. That's it from me. And thank you, everyone.